What's up everybody, this is Ryan the Lion here, also known as that one guy who made an execution deck profile on YouTube about 3 years ago and then disappeared off the face of the planet. But I'm alive and I'm back here today with another Weiss Schwarz video. Today we're going to be talking about the flavor in Weiss Schwarz, and specifically the flavor in my favorite set, King of Fighters. In Weiss Schwarz, the flavor of the cards mainly come from the references to the set's source material and how it translates from the original source material, whether it be an anime or a video game, and how it translates into a card game format. And it gives you a feeling that the source material is represented through the cards, whether it be through flavor text, art, traits, or card effects. But nowadays, Bushiroad has definitely made the change from more flavorful effects to functional effects, and that's evidenced through cards that have the same effects pasted throughout multiple sets just for functionality. Cards like Riki, Azusa, Musashi, Clean Cut, just to name a few of the effects that have gone through multiple sets. Now, that isn't to say old sets didn't have playability in mind, but I definitely think the older sets emphasize more of the idea that Weiss Schwarz was first and foremost a game for enjoyers of anime and video games first, and a card game second. And I think Bushiroad really wanted to show the transition from the anime or video game medium into the card game format. And I think the set KO specifically really shows that kind of card design. I wanted to make this video just for fun and to show appreciation to the card design for this set and how much it pays homage to King of Fighters and how well represented it is via the effects of the cards themselves. I could go on and talk about every aspect of every card, from art to flavor text, everything in between. But in order to save some time, I'm just going to talk about the main mechanics and effects of the set that gives it so much flavor. Though, let me know in the comments if you want a video going over the references made in the set, such as what supers are in the climaxes, why certain characters have certain traits, etc. And I guess spoiler alert, since I'll be talking about some of the story aspects from here on out. This is the King of Fighters Weiss Schwarz flavor review. The King of Fighters is a relatively innovative game in terms of fighting games. It replaces the traditional one-on-one round-based system and replaces it with the format consisting of 3-on-3 team-based matches that they dubbed the team battle system. Within the realm of the game's lore itself, the King of Fighters tournament is fought in teams of 3, and each teammate must work together and progress through the tournament in order to achieve victory. From there, we can see the first bits of flavor that transitions from the fighting game to Weiss Schwarz, the idea of teammates and the synergy that the teammates have with each other. And we can see this already with the well-established Weiss Schwarz mechanic, Change. Now normally in Weiss Schwarz, the characters will change into different forms of themselves, but in King of Fighters, the characters change into different characters. This is because the change targets are actually their teammates in the lore. In this set, this is represented by the following cards for the following teams: Team Kim, Team Southtown, Team New Faces, Team Cycle Soldier, Team K-Dash, Team Ikari Warriors, Team Fatal Fury, and Team Art of Fighting. The team flavor also extends into the trait restricted brainstormers and their restricted brainstorming effects that represent the synergy that the teams have with each other, but not necessarily other teams. In this set, the 1-0 Joe Brainstormer is only able to search for the traits Andy and Terry have, which are Ninja and Animal respectively. The 1-0 Yuri Brainstormer can only search for the traits Rio and Robert have, which are Dragon and Animal respectively, though, ironically, a lot of the characters in this set share some of the same traits that they can brainstorm for, with the most ironic being that Robert and Terry can be searched by either brainstormer. Though, in the game, you could pick any 3 characters you want, so it's all good. The 1-1 Weiss Mature Brainstormer is a very special case of flavor. It searches for any Orochi trait character, and though their teammate Iori does have an Orochi trait, the Orochi trait is not specific to just their team, but rather to the entire Orochi clan. This is because the Orochi clan is not really just loyal to their teammates, but rather to Orochi himself. In the lore, the clan has the goal of resurrecting Orochi, who's basically this deity that's existed for thousands of years, and his goal is to destroy the earth unless he's sealed by the protagonists of the story, but that's neither here nor there. Iori and Leona both have Orochi trait, but they do not ally themselves with the Orochi clan. Instead, they have Orochi trait because they have partial Orochi ancestry in their bloodline. The other character that has Orochi trait but does not align themselves with the Orochi clan is Rugal. And the reason he has Orochi trait is because he was given some of Orochi's power from Goenitz. The 1-1 Weiss Mature also has the added effect of being a global plus 1k to Iori and Rugal, rather than being a full global 1k to Orochi. That's because Weiss and Mature were specifically tasked by Goenitz to watch over Rugal and Iori for the reasons mentioned before. The final bit of team flavor that we get is the team events, which represent specific teams and require specific characters to be in specific zones in order to utilize their effects. Though the effects of the team events are relatively generic, I think it's still pretty cool that you have to have specific characters from the team themselves in specific zones to even pull them off. The cards in this set also make reference to the fact that King of Fighters is, well, a fighting game. We can see this via the cards like Continue, which is the classic arcade fighting game screen, where you can pop in quarters before you get a game over and have to start over. The card itself makes direct reference to this by being able to give one of your battling characters the ability to return to stage after it's been placed into the waiting room. Member Select is the King of Fighters equivalent of the standard fighting game character select screen, where you can pick characters you want to use. The card itself allows you to pick a character from your clock and put it into hand for you to use. And finally, we have Perfect Victory, and though it isn't a card with a flavorful effect, hell, it's just a win climax. It's a reference to a fighting game Perfect, which is beating your opponent without getting hit. And the flavor text says Perfect, it's pretty funny. Alright, now let's talk some real dank flavor. In the lore, people with partial Orochi ancestry in their bloodlines are subject to a circumstance known as Riot of the Blood, which causes their Orochi blood to resist their normal blood and makes them go completely berserk and gain immense power. Also, their hair turns red. They cannot control themselves in this state and attack anyone who's near. This Riot of the Blood is represented by the 3-2 Berserker Iori that puts all your front row characters into waiting room on attack and it heals you 1. This is also represented in the 2-2 Leona that puts all your other front row characters into waiting room on attack as well, but it only does so if you have another Orochi character. This is because her Riot of the Blood was specifically triggered by one of the Orochi clan leaders, which was Goenitz, who triggered it in order for her to kill her father and her entire village after they didn't follow the plan to resurrect Orochi. Now that we've gone over the effect of Riot of the Blood in Weiss Schwarz, which is on attack, killing off your front row characters, we can finally talk about Goenitz, the 2-1 Goenitz. The most, or one of the most flavorful cards in this set, second to only the next card we're going to talk about. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. The 2-1 Goenitz gives your opponent's front row characters plus 1k and Orochi trait, which is a direct reference to how he saw potential in Rugal and gave him a bit of Orochi's power. On top of that, he has pace 6 at the start of your opponent's attack phase to give all your opponent's front row characters on attack send another front row character to the waiting room. He literally gives Riot of the Blood effect from the King of Fighters set to your opponents because it's a reference to the lore where he triggered Riot of the Blood in Leona to kill off her village. You are triggering Riot of the Blood in your opponent's characters to kill off their front row. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love this card. The flavor is so good. And I feel like Bushiroad doesn't make cards like this anymore. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm gushing too much about this 2-1 Goenitz. We haven't even gotten to one of the most filthiest, flavorful cards that we have yet to talk about. This one card gets a section all to itself because of how much flavor it brings to the table. Guy Fieri would be proud. I'm of course talking about the notorious 3-2 Ash. In the lore, Ash has the ability to take other people's powers and use them as his own. This is demonstrated in his first ability, of gaining the trait of every other character on the field and gaining 1k for each trait he obtains. In the lore, he steals Chizuru's power, which allows him to seal away his opponent's abilities and not let them use them for a while. In the game, his Super Germinal actually seals away your opponent's abilities from using special attacks and meter for a certain amount of time. In Weiss Schwarz, we can see this transition perfectly, as his climax combo with the Germinal +2 soul heals him from clock to stock and stops your opponent's abilities from using events and assists from their hand for that entire turn. His third ability is just mandatory memory kick. Nothing special to talk about there. I guess it could be a reference to how he deleted his own existence in KOF 13, but I'm pretty sure King of Fighters 13 came out after the Weiss Schwarz set, so that's a stretch, but you know, I'm gonna let it slide because this card is so sick. Ash's first two abilities are just so unique in the world of Weiss Schwarz. There's no other card like him, and I don't think there's ever gonna be a card that will be like him. Nowadays, you see a lot more functionality being printed in Weiss Schwarz, and it makes the game more playable, which is a good direction, but I think it's always nice to look back at the card design of the old sets, kind of see like the intricate flavor and lore behind each of the card effects, and really how much Bushiroad tried in their card design to represent the source material correctly. Yeah, that's all I wanted to really talk about. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for taking the time to just listen to me essentially just gush a bunch of lore that's represented on cardboard. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Hopefully this kind of video was a good break from the norm of other Weiss Schwarz video. Might see, you know, box openings, deck profiles. I wanted to do something, you know, I don't really see a lot of, and I think, you know, flavor is something that a lot of people push aside, but I feel like for me as a player, flavor is something that really draws me to the game, and it's what drew me to the game in the first place. I think I could speak for a lot of people who started playing Weiss Schwarz because their favorite anime or favorite game was in it, and they played card games before. They just wanted to see their favorite animes and video games be represented in a card game and be able to play it in a card game medium. And I think a lot of the old sets really capture that love and joy, and that card design is just so good and translating from one medium to the other. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.